Hey, I'm Mark. Hey, let's go, let's go, let's go. So much time, so little to do. Good. Now what? Really? Oh, man. I cannot believe that out of a million sperm, you were the fastest. Hey, close the books, pencils down, close the door. I don't want my principal to hear what's going on. Why? Because I'm a history teacher and I'm going rogue. You know, throughout my career, there's always been some idiot kid that interrupts the first day of class going, hey, can we just call you Mr. H? You know, my response is that my name is Mr. Haggard. And you can call me that, Mr. Haggard. I mean, Haggard. How hard is that? It's 2 syllables. It's not like it's Mr. O'Mahony or Mr. Coxtosenmanson, right? 2 syllables. It's a bit disrespectful. But the frustration of being called Mr. H actually goes back to my childhood, back to the early days of my youth, back to the early 80s when we were raised on TV. There I am, watching my favorite TV show, and then the next week, it's gone. What happened? Why? Hey, let's get back in the Wayback Machine. Whoa, 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 whoa. And let's see how my favorite TV show got canceled. Let's go rogue. The year is 1981. Stephen J. Cannell, who's going to produce a number of top TV shows in the 80s, is releasing his second. On March 18, ABC 1981, ABC premiered the 2-hour pilot to the comedy drama superhero show, The Greatest American Hero. The show starred William Catt as Ralph Hinckley, a teacher in a class full of delinquent students in Southern California. In the pilot, he tries to befriend the rough and tumble kids by taking them on a field trip to the desert. Out in the desert, the bus breaks down, and Hinckley has to walk back to town to find help. Along the way, FBI agent Bill Maxwell, played by Robert Culp, almost hits Hinckley in his car. Maxwell's car breaks down as well. Then, an alien spacecraft appears to the two, and the two try to hole up in Maxwell's car. But the aliens speak through the radio, telling the pair that they're dropping off a suit for Hinckley that'll give him superpowers. Maxwell is to find trouble in the world, and Hinckley, with the help of the suit, has to defeat it. The alien craft then disappears. Maxwell's car starts up again, and he drives off as Hinckley returns to his students, carrying the suit in a box. The only problem is, during walk, Hinckley loses the instruction book. You know, the middle part of the pilot has Ralph Hinckley reluctantly trying on the suit and learning its powers by trial and error. He can fly, but he has no idea how to land. He has superhuman speed, but he has no idea how to stop. He starts seeing visions of things that are happening miles away. Hinckley decides to team up with Maxwell and his lawyer girlfriend, Pam Davidson, played by the lovely and talented Connie Selica. Hang on a second. Lovely and talented. Each week, the 3 of them would fight crime throughout the LA basin. Hinckley acting as the reluctant hero, Maxwell as the zealot. He considered using Ralph as a first strike weapon flying under Soviet radar to attack Moscow. And Pam Davidson. Hold on a second. As the voice of reason between the two, it was brilliant, with the comedic premise and the buddy cop aspect all rolled around a superhero drama. Although Robert Culp got second billing, he really stole the show as the over-the-top, supremely confident, hard-boiled jingoist, punctuated by fantastic one-liners. You know, if those missiles go off, Ralph, the only way you're going to be getting your neighbors together will be with a vacuum cleaner. We all loved it. Everyone. Except for DC Comics, who sued ABC and Cannell, complaining that the greatest American hero looked too much like Superman. The courts ruled otherwise, saying that the mild-mannered teacher was more unlike Superman than he was like him. And aside from the brilliant acting, writing, comedy, drama, good win over evil action, The Greatest American Hero had one of the most awesomest theme songs in the sitcom era. Believe it or not, composed by the TV theme song machine of Mike Post and Pete Carpenter, and sung by one-hit wonder, Joey Scarberry. The song was so good that it made the American Top 40 in the summer of 1981, reaching number 2. I'm Casey Kasem, now on with the countdown. You know, Superman's theme never did go to number 2. This dramatic comedic action would continue through 1981. Then came another Mr. H. So here's John Hinckley obsessed with the movie Taxi Driver, which he supposedly binge-watched 15 times in a row before getting it back to his local Blockbuster. While watching the film, I suppose he did rewind. While watching the film, he developed a crush on Jodie Foster, who played in the movie. Oh, how can he win over Miss Foster? He wrote hundreds of letters to her and phoned her twice before she friend-zoned him. Oh, what could he do? He determined to do what Travis Bickle did to win her heart in Taxi Driver. You talking to me? You talking to me? You talking to me? He decided to assassinate the president. He trailed then-President Jimmy Carter from state to state for 6 months, was even arrested at the Nashville airport on weapons charges while the president was there. But no one made the connection that Hinckley wanted to kill the El Presidente. When he ran out of money, Hinckley went back to his parents' home and sent one final letter to Jodie Foster. He said, "Over the past 7 months, I've left you dozens of poems, letters, and love messages in the faint hope that you could develop an interest in me. Although we talked on the phone a couple of times, I never had the nerve to simply approach you and introduce myself. The reason I'm going ahead with this attempt now is because I cannot wait any longer to impress you. Sincerely, John Hinckley Jr. Have a nice day." Meanwhile, the Soviet Union still had troops in Afghanistan and 2,500 nuclear missiles pointed at us. On March 30th, 1980, as President Reagan was leaving the Washington, D.C. Hilton Hotel, John Hinckley Jr. fired 6 shots into the president's entourage. 2 officers were struck, along with Press Secretary James Brady, who suffered permanent brain damage and eventually died from his wound. The president was hit by a single bullet that broke a rib, punctured his lung, and caused serious internal bleeding. He was rushed to nearby George Washington Hospital, where he joked with the hospital staff in spite of the bullet lodged in his abdomen. As nurses were prepping him for surgery, they asked how he was doing, and he replied, "Well, all in all, I'd rather be in Philadelphia." When First Lady Nancy Reagan arrived from the White House, Reagan explained, "Honey, I forgot to duck." Just before being put under, he looked up at the surgery team and said, "Well, I hope you're all Republicans." The trauma surgeon, a liberal Democrat no less, replied, "Sir, today we are all Republicans." Ronaldus Maximus made a full recovery. In a speech before a joint session of Congress, where he announced a series of spending and tax cuts, he received a standing ovation from both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans. And while giving a speech in West Berlin a few weeks later, a balloon popped in the crowd, and without missing a beat, the president quipped, "Missed me." His popularity soared with the public, and he started pressing his agenda. I mean, how could a person vote against a man that took a bullet with a smile? In federal court, Hinckley was found to be insane based on his obsession with Jodie Foster, and he was incarcerated in a psychiatric facility. For her part, the actress has only spoken about the incident 3 times since 1981 and refuses to be interviewed or walks out of interviews if the topic comes up. Meanwhile, back on television, ABC had a problem with the greatest American hero. No, it wasn't Sheldon. Episode 4 of season 1 was already shot and scheduled to air in 2 days after Hinckley's assassination attempt, with the president's life still hanging in the balance. In that episode, Pam's parents fly into LA to see her and meet her new superhero Bohunk. Her mother says his name twice, but ABC overdubbed the last name Hinckley with the sound of airplane noise. In episode 6, there was an awkward moment when Ralph met his childhood hero, the Lone Ranger. He never introduces himself to the Lone Ranger, but he introduces Pam to him. Upon closer analysis, it seems that his introduction as Ralph Hinckley was left on the cutting room floor. But what would ABC do in the long term with their main character, who shared the last name of a would-be assassin? His name was quickly changed to Ralph Hanley. In episode 5, also already filmed, when one of his students addresses him as Mr. Hinckley, the name Hanley is clearly overdubbed. This was the case for the other episodes that were already filmed. When someone used the name Hinckley, the name Hanley was overdubbed. Bill and Pam, hang on a second. They obviously could call him by his first name, Ralph. The students at the school, who played a prominent role in the show as well, would refer to him as Mr. H. In spite of the confusion concerning William Katt's character, the show was still fun to watch as Ralph, whatever his last name was now, and Bill and Pam. Give me a second. What? Oh, I had a chance. What, she's married to John Tesh? Yeah, I'm a molder of young minds. What's John Tesh got? A piano? All right, well, how about Julie McCoy then? You know, your Love Boat cruise director? Where were we? Ralph and Bill and Pam continued fighting crime with superpowers discovered through trial and error. More error than trial. During the second season, the show's writers restored Ralph's to his original last name, Hinckley. After a successful first season, though, confusion about the identity of the main character may have taken its toll. In the 1981-82 season, the series was 44th most watched according to Nielsen ratings. And in the 1982-83 season, the series fell to 92nd and was canceled at the end of the season. All because that Dumas, John Hinckley, tried to assassinate the president. On the other hand, President Ronald Maximus was just getting started. His popularity among the American people grew after the assassination attempt. He used his mandate to enact tax cuts and easing regulations that spurred the previously stagnant U.S. economy and encouraged research and development by businesses and entrepreneurs. Reagan then took the revenues from the roaring U.S. economy and used it against the Soviet Union, playing a game of catch me if you can. He knew that the Soviet economy was teetering on the brink. With resources being eaten up in Afghanistan, Reagan proposed new missile systems that the Soviets couldn't match. He then proposed a space-based missile program, which could knock out inbound missiles from the sky. His opponents called the term Star Wars, but the Soviets believed that the Americans could do it. Meanwhile, in the Soviet nation of Ukraine, an explosion at a power plant in Chernobyl showed the government that they lacked the technological ability to keep up with the United States. Back in Berlin, Reagan made his bold proclamation against the wishes of his advisors. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And he did. And the next thing you know, David Hasselhoff is singing on top of the crumbling Berlin Wall. I've been looking for freedom. Yeah, and the Soviet Empire was disintegrating. By the end of the 1980s, under the leadership of Ronald Maximus, the United States had won the Cold War. You know, perhaps it was that Ronald Reagan was the greatest American hero. Hey, I want to thank my producer, Michael Cox, and also Mr. Brent Allen for letting us use his studio here on the campus of Columbia High School. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something. Like and subscribe if you did. Leave a comment below. I had fun, but I won't quit my day job, and I hope to go rogue with you again real soon. I'm Mark Haggard. I'm a history teacher, and I'm going rogue. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free. Yeah.